Drop the card, thief! Officer Kyle Brennan's command cut through the quick stop at 2:30 on a Tuesday afternoon. Diane Morrison stood at the register, credit card halfway to the cashier. Before she could process the words, Brennan's hand clamped around her wrist and twisted. "Don't play dumb with me. Where'd you get this? Who'd you rob?" He ripped the card from her hand and threw it at her feet like garbage. It bounced off her shoe. "People like you come in here every damn day thinking you're slick. Not on my watch." He kicked the card under the candy rack. "Pick it up, on your knees. Let everyone see what a thief looks like." The crowded store went silent. Diane's face burned. The cashier gripped the counter. A teenager's phone camera pointed straight at her. An elderly white woman whispered, "I knew something was off." Brennan stood over Diane, arms crossed, waiting. "Have you ever been forced to prove you're human?" 3 days later, Officer Kyle Brennan sat in the Internal Affairs conference room, his uniform crisp, his posture confident. Afternoon sunlight cut through the Venetian blinds. Lieutenant Maria Vasquez and 2 investigators faced him across the polished table. "Walk us through Tuesday's incident at Quick Stop, Officer Brennan," Vasquez said. Brennan leaned back, completely relaxed. "Yes, ma'am. Around 14:30 hours, I was off duty getting coffee. I observed a suspicious individual at the register attempting a transaction with what appeared to be a fraudulent credit card." "What made you suspect fraud?" 18 years on the force, you develop instincts. We'd received a briefing that morning about a theft ring hitting gas stations. The subject matched the profile perfectly." He pulled out his notebook. "Nervous demeanor, avoided eye contact, kept glancing at exits, classic flight risk indicators. Your response?" "I identified myself as law enforcement and requested she surrender the card for inspection. Standard procedure." Brennan's voice carried practiced authority. "She became immediately hostile, raised her voice, started making accusations. I had reason to believe she might flee or become aggressive. The report states you made physical contact. Minimal contact to secure evidence. She pulled away, creating a struggle." He paused. "I was protecting the community. That's what we do." One investigator slid a paper forward. "Your report says she became verbally aggressive and physically resistant." "Correct. Also says you prevented an imminent threat to public safety." "Yes, sir. These theft rings work fast. I stopped a criminal before she could hit 5 more stores." Brennan folded his hands, the picture of professionalism. Vasquez turned her laptop toward him. Security footage played. Diane at the register, card extended. Brennan approached from behind, grabbing her wrist, ripping the card away, throwing it down. His body language is aggressive, dominating. Brennan watched without reaction. "You can see her pulling away. That's resistance. I had to maintain control." "The footage shows you throwing the card at her feet." "I secured it on the ground while she was agitated, created necessary distance while preserving evidence. And demanding she pick it up on her knees?" His jaw tightened, first crack in composure. "I asked her to retrieve it. How she chose to do so was her decision. If she misinterpreted my words, that's perception versus intent." Vasquez closed the laptop. "This is your 3rd complaint this year. Ma'am, I work a tough beat, high crime area. When you're proactive, people file complaints to avoid responsibility. Every previous complaint was dismissed because they were baseless, just like this one." The younger investigator, Torres, leaned forward. "Ms. Morrison has no criminal record. The card wasn't stolen, registered in her name, paid in full for 8 years. Brennan shrugged. "Someone made a mistake in the briefing. I acted on intelligence received. That's good police work with bad information. It happens." "She's filed formal complaints alleging discrimination and assault." "Of course she has." Dismissive now. "They always do. I've been accused of everything: racism, excessive force, harassment. Every accusation came from people who didn't want accountability. This woman was caught acting suspicious. Now she's playing victim." "Playing victim?" Vasquez repeated, writing. Yes, it's a pattern. I stop someone. They cry discrimination. The department investigates me instead of them. Criminals walk free while we defend against frivolous complaints. Torres opened another file. The store clerk, Maria Gonzalez, says Ms. Morrison is a regular customer. Twice weekly, always polite, never issues. The card was processed without problems. Brennan waved dismissively. Clerks aren't trained to spot fraud. That's why officers stay vigilant. Ms. Gonzalez stated you were unnecessarily aggressive, and Ms. Morrison appeared humiliated and afraid. Perception. The clerk isn't trained in de-escalation or threat assessment. From her civilian perspective, I seemed aggressive. From a law enforcement perspective, I was appropriately assertive. There's a difference. Vasquez pulled out more papers. A witness filmed the incident. His statement corroborates Ms. Morrison's version. You initiated contact without provocation and used racially charged language. Brennan's face hardened. There it is. I knew we'd get here. He leaned forward. I've served 18 years. Every neighborhood, every demographic. I don't see color, I see behavior. If someone acts suspicious, I respond. The fact she's black doesn't mean I profiled her. It means she acted suspicious and I did my job. The witness heard you say people like you. People acting suspiciously during potential crimes. That's categorical, not racial. His voice rose. This is what's wrong with modern policing. We can't do our jobs without someone screaming discrimination. I stopped a suspected thief. If she didn't want to be treated like a criminal, maybe she shouldn't have matched the profile. Silence fell. Vasquez made final notes. That's all for now, Officer Brennan. We'll contact you when the investigation's complete. Brennan stood, adjusting his belt. I appreciate your time. I've dedicated 2 decades protecting this city. Commendations, community awards, letters from grateful citizens. One complaint from someone avoiding accountability shouldn't erase that. He walked to the door, then paused. Oh, I've got a federal hearing next week. Some pattern and practice review. Political nonsense, but I'll set the record straight there, too. Vasquez looked up. Federal hearing? Department of Justice investigating alleged civil rights violations. Bunch of complaints lumped together, trying to manufacture something from nothing. My union rep says it's optics. Feds want to look tough on misconduct. He smirked. Should be quick. I've got nothing to hide. His boots echoed down the hallway, confidence absolute. After he left, Torres looked at Vasquez. He has no idea, does he? Vasquez opened her laptop, pulling up the federal case file. The header read, United States versus Metro City Police Department. Pattern and practice investigation. Halfway down, presiding judge. Honorable Diane Morrison, U.S. District Court. No, Vasquez said quietly. He doesn't. The Internal Affairs hearing room felt smaller when Diane Morrison entered. Morning light poured through tall windows, illuminating the long table where Vasquez and her team waited. Diane wore a tailored navy blazer over white blouse, professional but understated. She carried a leather messenger bag with embossed initials catching the light. Arn, DM. She took her seat with composure that comes from years of practice. Spine straight, hands folded, no fidgeting. Ms. Morrison, thank you for coming, Vasquez began. We'd like your account of Tuesday's incident at Quick Stop. Diane nodded once. Of course. Her voice was calm, measured, and precise. I entered the store at approximately 14:27. I selected a protein bar and bottled water. Total purchase, $6.43. I proceeded to the register where Maria Gonzalez was working. Torres wrote quickly, trying to keep pace. I handed Ms. Gonzalez my credit card. Chase Sapphire, issued in my name, account opened in 2017. Before she could process the transaction, Officer Brennan approached from behind. He was approximately 8 inches from my personal space. Vasquez leaned forward. What happened next? Officer Brennan stated, quote, Where'd you steal that card from? He did not identify himself as law enforcement. He did not request identification. He immediately accused me of theft. Diane's tone remained even, factual. Before I could respond, he gripped my right wrist with sufficient force to leave marks visible for 72 hours. Would you like to see the photographs? She reached into her bag and produced a manila folder. Inside were time-stamped photos, her wrist showing clear finger-shaped bruises taken from multiple angles, each with dated timestamps. The investigators examined them in silence. Officer Brennan then extracted the card from my hand using a twisting motion, biomechanically designed to cause compliance through pain. He elevated the card above my head, clearly intending to display it to other customers. He stated, "Don't play dumb with me. Who'd you rob?" Torres looked up. "Ma'am, those are very specific details." "You're certain about exact wording?" Diane met his eyes directly. "I have a trained memory for detail. It's essential in my profession." "Which is?" "I work in the justice system." Technically true, massively understated. Vasquez made a note. "Continue." Officer Brennan then threw the card at my feet. It struck my shoe, left Nike running shoe, size 8. He kicked it under the candy display, stating, "People like you come in here every damn day thinking you're slick." He issued a command. "Pick it up, on your knees. Let everyone see what a thief looks like." The room went quiet. Torres's pen stopped. I remained standing. I did not comply with the command to kneel. Approximately 6 other customers were present. All watched. Officer Brennan positioned himself directly over me, arms crossed, waiting for compliance. The power dynamic was clear. He expected submission. "How did you feel?" Vasquez asked. Diane paused. A flicker crossed her face, controlled acknowledgement of emotion. Humiliated, angry, aware that any response could escalate into something dangerous. "Did you fear for your safety?" "Yes." Officer Brennan's hand hovered near his service weapon multiple times. Whether conscious or not, the message was clear: comply or face consequences. Vasquez pulled out Brennan's report. "Officer Brennan claims you became verbally aggressive and physically resistant. That's factually inaccurate. I spoke fewer than 10 words during the entire encounter. I did not raise my voice. I did not use profanity. I made no aggressive gestures." Diane opened her bag and produced a USB drive. "I believe you'll find the unedited security footage illuminating." She slid it across with the practiced ease of someone who'd presented evidence 1,000 times. Torres picked it up. "This is from the store's security system?" "Yes. I obtained it with Maria Gonzalez's permission and the store owner's written consent. Complete footage, unedited, time-stamped, with audio. Officer Brennan's report references edited footage that conveniently omits his initial aggression and full context." Vasquez inserted the drive. The video played, crystal clear, full audio. Diane standing calmly. Brennan approached aggressively. Every word is audible, every gesture visible. The elderly woman was clutching her purse, the teenager recording. Diane's face, composed despite obvious distress. When it ended, silence. As you can see, Officer Brennan's characterization is inconsistent with objective evidence. "Ms. Morrison," Vasquez said slowly, "your presentation is remarkably thorough. Have you had legal training?" "I'm familiar with evidentiary standards." "In what capacity?" Diane adjusted her blazer collar, a small, unconscious gesture. Her fingers touched space where something else usually sat, something heavier, more formal. "I've worked in legal environments for over 15 years. I understand the importance of documentation, chain of custody, and corroborating testimony." Torres glanced at her business card, only her name and phone number. No title, no affiliation. "You mentioned corroborating testimony." "Yes. Maria Gonzalez witnessed everything. Derek Thompson, who filmed on his phone, can verify the sequence. Both agreed to provide statements." She pulled out 2 more documents, typed witness statements, notarized, signed, dated. I collected these in advance to expedite your investigation. Vasquez accepted them, expression shifting to curiosity. Most complainants don't arrive this prepared. Most complainants don't have my resources or experience navigating institutional bureaucracy. I also understand complaints against officers, particularly alleging racial discrimination, are frequently dismissed due to insufficient evidence or he-said-she-said dynamics. I wanted to ensure that wouldn't happen here. She reached into her bag and produced a legal pad filled with handwritten notes. The top page, Morrison v. Brennan, timeline of events. Below, relevant case law, 42 U.S.C., bar 1983. Torres's eyes widened. You've cited federal civil rights statutes. Under Section 1983, when an officer acting under color of law deprives a citizen of constitutional rights, that officer, and potentially their employing agency, can be held liable. Officer Brennan's actions constitute unlawful seizure under the 4th Amendment and discriminatory treatment under the 14th. She spoke as if discussing the weather. Casual. Effortless. I assume your investigation will examine whether this represents an isolated event or a broader pattern. The investigators exchanged glances. That's beyond what most complainants request, Vasquez said carefully. Perhaps. But institutional accountability requires examining patterns, not just individual incidents. Wouldn't you agree? Before anyone could answer, Diane's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, just a second. Long enough for Torres to catch a glimpse. Federal Court, Courtroom 6A, Case Review, 9:00 a.m. She silenced it. I apologize. I have a full docket today. Are there additional questions, or may I leave these materials for review? Docket, Vasquez repeated, testing the word. Interesting phrasing. Diane smiled slightly, first crack in her professional mask. Habit. In my line of work, we use docket rather than schedule. What exactly is your line of work? As I mentioned, justice system. She stood, extending her hand. Her grip was firm, commanding. Thank you for your time. I trust you'll conduct a thorough investigation. Transparency and accountability matter, not just for me, but for everyone Officer Brennan encounters in the future. She gathered materials efficiently, placed them in her bag, and walked toward the door. Just before exiting, she paused. One more thing. I'll be available for follow-up testimony, though I expect to be quite busy over the next few weeks. High-profile case. She adjusted her bag strap. Good day? The door closed with a soft click. Torres immediately turned to Vasquez. Did you see her calendar? Federal court? Vasquez was already typing, pulling up public records. Morrison, Diane Morrison. The search results are loaded. Torres leaned over. His face went pale. Oh my God. Vasquez sat back, a slow smile spreading. Well, this just got very interesting. Diane Morrison's home office was a study in quiet achievement. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined 2 walls, diplomas hung in black frames, Northwestern, Yale Law, federal bench appointment signed by the president. She sat at her desk as afternoon sunlight poured through the window, illuminating the case file before her. United States versus Metro City Police Department, Pattern and Practice Investigation. Her name on the first page. Presiding, Honorable Diane Morrison, U.S. District Court. She turned pages. 47 documented incidents spanning 8 years. Excessive force, unlawful detention, discriminatory enforcement. All against the same department. One name appeared repeatedly. Officer Kyle Brennan. Diane opened her laptop and accessed the department's internal database. She typed his badge number. Results loaded. Complaint 1. March 2017. Marcus Williams, 35, black male, teacher. Allegation. Vehicle search without consent. Racial slurs. Outcome. Dismissed. Complaint. 2. July 2017. Lisa Chang, 28, Asian female, nurse. Allegation, stopped while jogging, accused of casing houses. Outcome, dismissed. Complaint 3, November 2018. David Rodriguez, 42, Latino male, contractor. Allegation, pulled over for non-existent broken taillight, vehicle searched. Outcome, dismissed. 12 complaints total, 12 dismissed. All complainants were people of color. She cross-referenced arrest records. Brennan's arrest rate, triple the department average. His conviction rate, 38%, among the lowest. Prosecutors declined filing charges in another 20%. Demographics: Black residents were 18% of the population, but 67% of Brennan's stops. Systematic discrimination, clear pattern. Mom? Emma stood in the doorway, backpack on, wearing the same Northwestern hoodie Diane had worn to the gas station. Hey, sweetheart. How was school? Fine. Emma stepped closer, glancing at the papers. Are you working on that police officer's case? Diane nodded. Yes. Emma read upside down. That's a lot of complaints. It is. Mom, why didn't you tell him who you are at the gas station? You could have said you're a judge and he would have stopped. Diane turned her chair to face Emma fully. You're right. He would have apologized. Maybe groveled. Probably kept his job. Then why didn't you? Because justice shouldn't require a title. If I'd used my position to protect only myself, what about Maria at the store? The teacher, nurse, teenager, everyone who complained and was ignored because they didn't have power? Emma was quiet. So you're using your power now? For them? I'm using the truth. The power is just amplification. Is he going to get in trouble? If evidence supports it, yes. Good. He was mean to you. I didn't pick up that card, remember? I stood there until Maria got it for me. Sometimes refusing to accept how someone diminishes you is the most powerful response. Emma nodded. When's the hearing? Next Tuesday. Officer Brennan will be there. He doesn't know I'm the judge. Are you nervous? No. I've prepared my entire career for this. Diane pulled out a document from a locked drawer. In re, Officer Kyle Brennan. Preliminary findings. Inside was a matrix cross-referencing every complaint with arrest records, demographic data, use of force reports. Pattern undeniable. Emma read over her shoulder. That's a lot of people he hurt. Yes, everyone deserved to be heard, but the system didn't listen because they lacked credentials, just ordinary citizens exercising rights and being punished for it. Diane opened another file. A sealed 2019 settlement. City paid $45,000 to a man Brennan assaulted. Non-disclosure agreement included. No public record, no discipline. He's gotten away with this for years, Emma said. Not anymore. Diane pulled her judicial robes from the closet, black, formal, heavy with authority. She inspected them carefully. Next Tuesday, Officer Brennan expects another easy hearing, another dismissal, another validation he can act without consequences. She hung the robes where she could see them. And instead? Instead, he'll see me on the bench, with a gavel, and every piece of evidence he thought was buried. Steel filled her quiet voice. He made a mistake at that gas station. Not because he humiliated me, but because he revealed exactly who he is. Now I have authority to make sure everyone sees it. Emma hugged her tightly. I'm proud of you, Mom. Diane held her close. Thank you, baby. Now go do homework. Justice waits until after algebra. Emma laughed and left. Diane reviewed the case file once more, making final notes. Truth doesn't need a badge. It needs a witness willing to speak, and a system willing to listen. She closed the file and placed it in her briefcase, ready for Tuesday. Tuesday morning arrived with bright sunlight flooding courtroom 6A. High ceilings and dark wood paneling gave the space gravity. Rows of benches filled with observers, activists, reporters, attorneys, citizens following the case. Officer Kyle Brennan entered at 8:50, 10 minutes early. Dress uniform immaculate, shoes mirror polished. His attorney, Robert Carter, walked beside him carrying a thick briefcase. Brennan scanned the courtroom with practiced ease. He'd won every previous complaint hearing. This would be no different. "The judge isn't here yet," Carter noted, gesturing toward the empty bench. "Probably running late. Federal judges love making people wait." Brennan settled into his chair. "Establishes authority." The nameplate on the bench was covered with black cloth. Brennan didn't give it a second glance. At 8:58, Department of Justice Attorney Sandra Carter entered. Mid-40s, sharp suit, reputation for thoroughness. She carried accordion files bulging with documents. "All rise." Everyone stood. A door behind the bench opened. Brennan was still whispering to his attorney about lunch plans after this quick hearing. "The Honorable Judge Diane Morrison presiding." Brennan looked up. Diane Morrison stepped onto the bench in full judicial robes. She took her seat, adjusted her glasses, and looked directly at the courtroom. Her eyes met Brennan's. Recognition hit him like a physical blow, face draining of color, mouth opening wordlessly. The woman from the gas station, whose credit card he'd thrown, whom he'd ordered to her knees. She was the judge. Whispers erupted. Reporters leaned forward, cameras focused on Brennan's shocked expression. Diane remained professionally neutral. "This court is now in session. Case number 2025 CV 847, United States versus Metro City Police Department. Counsel, state your appearances." Sandra Carter stood. "Sandra Carter for the United States Department of Justice, Your Honor." Robert Carter rose slowly, still processing. "Robert Carter for the defense, representing Officer Kyle Brennan, Your Honor." "Thank you." Diane made a note. "Before we proceed, I'll address what many have noticed. Officer Brennan and I had a prior encounter. 3 weeks ago, he detained me, accused me of theft, and used physical force." The courtroom erupted. Robert Carter shot up. "Your Honor, you must recuse yourself. You cannot be both witness and judge." "Counselor," Diane's voice cut through firmly. "I've reviewed recusal standards thoroughly. My experience with Officer Brennan's conduct is directly relevant to the pattern we're examining. Rather than bias, it provides first-hand insight. However, I will recuse from sentencing. Another judge will determine consequences. I establish facts only. Motion denied." Robert Carter sat heavily. Brennan gripped the table, knuckles white. "Ms. Carter, present your case." Sandra Carter stood, remote in hand. A screen descended. "The United States will demonstrate Officer Brennan engaged in systematic discriminatory enforcement, unlawful searches, and excessive force targeting individuals by race." First slide appeared. Statistical analysis. Dr. James Bradley, criminologist. Dr. Bradley analyzed Officer Brennan's enforcement actions over 8 years. His traffic stop rate for black motorists is 6.2 times higher than for white motorists in comparable circumstances. Charts showed clear disparities. His use of force against minorities is 11 times more frequent. Controlling for all variables, time, location, offense severity, the only remaining factor is race. The statistical probability this occurred by chance, 0.003%. Essentially impossible without intentional bias. Brennan leaned toward his attorney, whispering urgently. Robert Carter shook his head. "The government will present body camera footage demonstrating Officer Brennan's pattern of discriminatory language used exclusively with minorities." Lights dimmed. Video played. First clip, Brennan stopping a Hispanic teenager. "What are you doing in this neighborhood? Should have stayed where you belong." The kid stammered he lived 2 blocks away. Brennan made him sit on the curb for 20 minutes. No citation, no offense. Second clip, Brennan pulling over a black businessman in a Mercedes. "Is this your car or are you borrowing it?" The man provided registration proving ownership. Brennan still searched the vehicle, finding nothing. 30-minute delay. Third clip, Brennan approaching a black woman jogging. "What are you really doing here? Casing houses?" She lived in the neighborhood. Brennan demanded ID, made her wait while he verified, neighbors watching from windows. Each video showed Brennan's cold stare, dismissive tone, hand touching his weapon during routine interactions, only with minorities. The courtroom watched in heavy silence. Several observers shook heads. One woman wiped tears. Sandra turned to face Brennan. Officer Brennan claimed these stops were based on suspicious behavior, not race. Evidence shows otherwise. New slide. Comparative analysis. White versus minority stops. In 8 years, Officer Brennan stopped 847 minority drivers. Of those, 623 resulted in no citation, no arrest, meaning no legitimate cause existed. Meanwhile, he stopped only 94 white drivers, and 91 resulted in valid citations for observable violations. The disparity was staggering. Your Honor, the government calls Marcus Williams. A black man in his mid-30s approached, teacher's lanyard around his neck. He was sworn in. Mr. Williams, describe your encounter with Officer Brennan in March 2017. I was driving home from work, obeying all laws. Officer Brennan pulled me over, said my taillight was broken. It wasn't. I'd just had the car inspected. He demanded to search my vehicle. I asked if I was required to consent. He said if I had nothing to hide, I shouldn't mind. Did you consent? I felt I had no choice. His hand was on his gun, so yes, he searched everything. Tore through my glove compartment, trunk, under seats. Found nothing. Then he let me go with a warning about attitude. Did you file a complaint? Yes, dismissed. They said Officer Brennan had reasonable suspicion and my consent made the search legal. Marcus looked directly at Brennan. But I never felt like I could say no. That's not consent. That's coercion. Robert Carter stood. Mr. Williams, you were driving in a high-crime area? I was driving through my own neighborhood where I've lived 12 years. Officer Brennan was being cautious. Officer Brennan was profiling. There's a difference. Chen sat. No further questions. Sandra called Lisa Chang. The nurse stopped while jogging. Officer Brennan accused me of casing houses in broad daylight while wearing running clothes. I've jogged that route every morning for 3 years. Apparently, an Asian woman in a white neighborhood looks suspicious to him. Then Derek Thompson, the teenager who filmed the gas station incident. I started recording because I've seen this before. My brother got stopped 5 times last year. Never ticketed, just hassled. When I saw that officer grab that woman's wrist and throw her card, I knew I had to document it. His video played, unedited, full audio, Brennan's aggression, Diane's composure, the crowd's uncomfortable silence. Sandra turned to Morrison. Your Honor, the unedited footage directly contradicts Officer Brennan's report claiming Ms. Morrison was verbally aggressive and physically resistant. Evidence shows she spoke fewer than 10 words and remained stationary. Diane made notes, expression neutral. The court has reviewed the footage. Continue. The government rests on this phase. The pattern is clear, well documented, supported by independent witnesses and objective data. Diane looked toward defense. Mr. Carter, does the defense wish to present evidence? Robert Carter whispered frantically with Brennan. Finally stood. Your Honor, may we request a brief recess? 15 minutes. This court stands in recess. The gavel fell. The 15-minute recess felt endless. Brennan stood in the hallway, tie loosened, face pale. Robert Carter paced in circles. How did you not know? Carter hissed. How did you not recognize her name? I never got her name at the gas station. I just thought she was... Brennan stopped. Thought she was what? Just another black woman you could push around? Carter grabbed his arm. Judge Morrison isn't some activist. She's one of the most respected federal judges in the district. Harvard, Yale Law, Supreme Court clerk, and you told her to get on her knees. Brennan's face went gray. When we go back in, you say nothing unless I tell you. Understand? Nothing. The bailiff appeared. Court's resuming. They returned. Diane was already seated, reviewing documents. Please be seated, Diane said once everyone stood. Officer Brennan, do you recognize this court? Brennan stood stiffly. Yes, Your Honor. Do you recognize me? Long pause. Yes, Your Honor. Describe our previous encounter for the record. Robert Carter half rose. Your Honor. Sit down, Counselor. Diane's eyes stayed on Brennan. Officer? I encountered you at Quick Stop 3 weeks ago. I believed you were using a stolen credit card. Based on what evidence? I received information about a theft ring. That's not what I asked. What specific evidence made you believe my card was stolen? Silence. What behavior did you observe? What actions indicated criminal activity? Brennan said nothing. I was purchasing a protein bar and water. I handed a credit card registered in my name with a perfect payment history. What indicates theft? I made a mistake. Did you ask for identification before accusing me? No, Your Honor. Did you identify yourself before making physical contact? No, Your Honor. Did you have probable cause? I believed probable cause is a legal standard. Did you have it? No, Your Honor. Yet you grabbed my wrist hard enough to leave bruises, threw my card at my feet, ordered me to pick it up on my knees so everyone can see what a thief looks like. Accurate? The courtroom held its breath. Your Honor, I apologize. If you'd known I was a federal judge? Diane leaned forward. Your apology isn't for treating a human being with dignity. It's for failing to recognize my position. That's the problem. She held up his report. This states I was verbally aggressive and physically resistant. The video proves otherwise. Are you committing perjury in my courtroom? Robert Carter stood. Your Honor, I'm asking if Officer Brennan lied in his official report. Brennan's hands trembled. I characterized the situation based on my perception. Your perception that a black woman must be a criminal. Your perception led you to assault without cause, then falsify a report. She paused. How many other reports have you falsified? How many others have you brutalized based on perception? Silence. This is unusual. I'm both witness and judge. Some see conflict. I see clarity. For 18 years, Officer Brennan operated with impunity because victims lacked platforms to be heard. I have that platform. I'll use it, not for revenge, but for truth. She nodded to Sandra Carter. Continue with witnesses. The government calls Maria Gonzalez. Maria took the stand, hands shaking slightly. Ms. Gonzalez, how often does Judge Morrison visit your store? Twice weekly. After yoga. Always polite. Never problems. What did you observe that Tuesday? That officer attacked her immediately, didn't ask questions, just accused me, grabbed her, threw her card. She stayed calm, but I could see the humiliation. We all felt it. Did the credit card transaction have issues? No, perfect transaction. The card was legitimate. No further questions. Chen declined cross-examination. Diane made notes. 30-minute recess. We'll hear additional pattern evidence when we return. The gavel fell. Brennan sat frozen. The woman he'd humiliated held the power to expose exactly who he was. His confidence from this morning had evaporated. The quick hearing he'd expected had become his reckoning. In the gallery, Derek, the teenager who'd filmed, leaned toward his mother. She's destroying him. His mother nodded. No, she's just telling the truth. He destroyed himself. Reporters typed furiously. This wasn't just another police misconduct case anymore. This was a story of power reversed, of the underestimated revealing themselves at the perfect moment. Officer Kyle Brennan had made the mistake of his career. He'd humiliated someone based on nothing but bias and assumption, and that someone was now his judge. When court resumed, tension filled the air. Diane sat composed, files stacked before her. Sandra Carter stood ready. Brennan looked diminished, confidence gone. "Ms. Carter, additional witnesses?" Diane asked. "Yes, Your Honor. But first, statistical evidence demonstrating systematic conduct." A slide appeared. Brennan's career overview, 2007 to 2025. Sandra walked through numbers. Officer Brennan received 18 years of taxpayer-funded salary. In that time, 0 commendations for minority community outreach, 0 recognition for building diverse community trust, 0 awards for de-escalation. Next slide. However, 47 formal complaints were filed against him. Every single one dismissed as insufficient evidence or officer's word deemed credible. Numbers glowed, impossible to ignore. Officer Brennan's arrest rate is triple the department average. His conviction rate 38%, among the lowest. Prosecutors declined charges by another 20%. Sandra faced Brennan. 60% of people he arrested never committed prosecutable crimes. He detained them, processed them, for nothing. Diane made notes, the pen moving steadily. "We examined dismissed cases. Pattern found, improper search, lack of probable cause, constitutional violations. Officer Brennan's arrests don't stick because they're built on illegal foundations." Another chart. Where black residents comprise 18% of the population, they account for 67% of Officer Brennan's stops. Controlling for crime rates, time, location, disparity remains. The only variable is race. Robert Carter stood. "Objection, Your Honor, this is character assassination." Overruled. "Pattern evidence is directly relevant. Sit down, counselor." Chen sat. Diane looked at Brennan. Officer Brennan approached the stand. Brennan stood slowly, legs unsteady. Sworn in, he gripped the armrests. Diane leaned forward. "Officer Brennan, in 18 years, how many implicit bias training have you completed?" "I don't recall." 2. Both mandatory after complaints, correct?" "Yes, Your Honor." "How many use of force incidents have you been involved in?" "I don't track." 34. The department average is 9. Why is yours nearly 4 times higher? "I work a difficult beat. Officers in your precinct average 9. You 34. Try again." Brennan's jaw tightened. "I encounter more resistance." "Or you create resistance through your approach." Diane produced a document. Performance reviews. 2019. Officer Brennan would benefit from improved community relations. 2021. Concerns about escalation tactics. 2023. Recommend additional de-escalation training. Were you aware? Yes. What did you do? Silence. Nothing. You did nothing because you didn't believe there was a problem. Diane set down the paper. "When you grabbed my wrist at Quick Stop, you used pain compliance on an unarmed woman buying a protein bar. Does that seem proportionate?" "In the moment. You assessed wrong, repeatedly. 47 complaints are wrong. 60% of arrests are wrong. Your supervisors say wrong. Video evidence says wrong." Pause. "When does the pattern become undeniable?" Brennan said nothing. "When you see a black person in public, what's your first thought? Criminal? Suspicious? Threat?" Chen shot up. "Your Honor, it's the central question, counselor." "Officer Brennan, answer!" Brennan's voice came hoarse. "I think about officer safety." "Only with black citizens?" "Your stop data suggests you reserve safety concerns almost exclusively for minorities." "That's not... I don't see color." "If you didn't see color, statistics would reflect that. They don't. Numbers don't lie. Body cameras don't lie. Witnesses don't lie. The only person lying is you." Words hung heavy. When you said people like you, what did you mean? People acting suspicious. I was at a register with a legal card. What was suspicious? Brennan couldn't answer. The truth is, people like me means black people. In your worldview, black people are inherently suspicious, inherently criminal, inherently deserving of aggression. Isn't that accurate? No, Your Honor. Then explain the numbers. Explain the pattern. Explain why your suspicion only activates for minorities. Brennan stared at his hands. I'm recusing myself from sentencing, but my findings will be clear. This isn't one bad day. This is 18 years of systematic civil rights violations enabled by a department valuing officer loyalty over citizen safety. She looked at Sandra. Further witnesses? One more, Your Honor. We call Officer Brennan's former supervisor, Captain James Rodriguez. A gray-haired man in uniform approached the stand. 30 years on the force, he'd supervised Brennan for 6 years. He looked uncomfortable, as if his uniform had grown too tight. He was sworn in and sat down, avoiding Brennan's eyes. The final witness was about to expose the last piece, the system that protected Brennan despite knowing the truth. Captain James Rodriguez took the stand with visible reluctance. Gray-haired, 30 years on the force, he'd supervised Brennan for 6 years. His dress uniform looked uncomfortable. Sandra Carter approached. Captain Rodriguez, you supervised Officer Brennan from 2019 to present? Yes, ma'am. How many complaints did you review regarding Officer Brennan? Rodriguez shifted. 23, maybe 25. How many resulted in discipline? Long pause. None. Why not? Evidence was inconclusive. Officer's word against complainants. Policy requires clear proof. Sandra displayed a document. This memo from 2021 states, Officer Brennan's approach generates unnecessary complaints and erodes community trust. Recommend reassignment to administrative duties. What happened? Rodriguez looked down. Overruled by the union. You wanted him removed from patrol, but the union prevented it? Yes. Why did you want him removed? His confrontational style created problems. Too many complaints, too many dismissed arrests. Did you believe those complaints were legitimate? Silence. The courtroom waited. Some of them, yes. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. No further questions. Robert Carter declined cross-examination. Diane looked at Sandra. Closing arguments? Yes, Your Honor. Sandra moved to center, facing Brennan. This case isn't complicated. Officer Kyle Brennan spent 18 years treating black and brown citizens as suspects, not people. He violated the Fourth Amendment through unreasonable searches. He violated the 14th Amendment through discriminatory enforcement. He lied in reports to cover his actions. She gestured to the statistics. 6 points, 2 times more likely to stop black drivers, 11 times more likely to use force. 47 complaints dismissed. 60% of arrests were never prosecuted. This is a pattern. Her voice strengthened. Officer Brennan weaponized his badge to intimidate, humiliate, and harm. When he encountered Judge Morrison, he revealed exactly who he is, someone who sees a black woman and immediately assumes criminality. She turned to Diane. Judge Morrison's experience isn't unique. It's representative. She just had the platform to expose it. How many others suffered in silence? How many ordinary citizens were brutalized and told their complaints didn't matter? She paused. The government asks this court to find Officer Brennan engaged in systematic civil rights violations, warranting immediate suspension, decertification review, and federal criminal charges. Sandra sat. Robert Carter stood, looking defeated. Your Honor, my client served 18 years. He's made mistakes, but he's also kept people safe, responded to dangerous calls. We ask the court to consider the totality of his service. 47 incidents isn't isolation, Counselor, Diane interrupted. That's a pattern. Chen deflated. We request leniency. He sat. Silence fell. Diane reviewed notes, pen scratching. Minutes passed. She looked up. This court finds by clear and convincing evidence. Her voice was steady, final. 1. Officer Kyle Brennan engaged in discriminatory enforcement. His rates demonstrate statistically significant racial disparity, unexplainable by legitimate factors. 2. Officer Brennan repeatedly violated the Fourth Amendment through unreasonable searches without probable cause. 3. Officer Brennan abused authority by weaponizing his badge to intimidate and harm lawful citizens based on racial bias. 4. Officer Brennan made false statements in official reports to conceal misconduct. Diane paused. I want to address something personal. When Officer Brennan assaulted me, I could have revealed my position. He would have apologized, possibly kept his job. The room stilled. But that would be justice for me alone. The clerk, teacher, nurse, teenager, they wouldn't get justice. Privilege shouldn't be required for dignity. She looked at Brennan. You saw a black woman in casual clothes and assumed criminality. You never wondered if I was a doctor, teacher, judge, or simply a human being worthy of respect. That instant dehumanization is what we're addressing. Diane picked up her gavel. This court orders, Officer Kyle Brennan is immediately suspended without pay pending state decertification review. This case is referred to the DOJ Civil Rights Division for potential federal charges under 18 U.S.C. Section 242. Metro City Police Department will implement mandatory bias training, 40 hours minimum, for all officers. Officer Brennan's case will serve as a curriculum. An independent civilian oversight board will be established to review all future complaints. All arrests by Officer Brennan in the past 8 years will be reviewed for constitutional violations. She met Brennan's eyes. Officer Brennan, you didn't just fail your badge, you failed every citizen who trusted you. This court hopes these findings ensure no one else suffers what so many endured. The gavel fell. The courtroom erupted. Diane didn't silence the applause immediately. Marcus Williams wiped tears. Maria crossed herself. Derek held up his phone, capturing history. Brennan sat motionless, face ashen. 18 years of unchecked power had ended in one morning. Robert Carter gathered files in silence. Diane stood. This court is adjourned. She exited, robes flowing, head high. Justice hadn't just been served, it had been demanded, documented, and delivered. 3 months later, the consequences rippled outward. Officer Kyle Brennan no longer wore a badge. The state licensing board voted unanimously to decertify him, permanently barred from law enforcement. Federal civil rights charges followed, 2 to 5 years if convicted. His union dropped his defense under public pressure. Legal fees mounted. Reputation crumbled. He was required to pay restitution to victims of wrongful arrests. 23 cases were reopened for constitutional violations. Each represented a life disrupted, dignity stolen, justice delayed. But Brennan's downfall was only part of the story. Judge Diane Morrison's stand sparked something larger. Time magazine profiled her, the judge who lived what she adjudicates. Her gas station incident became a law school case study on implicit bias and civil rights enforcement. Congress invited her to testify on police reform. Her message was clear. Accountability cannot depend on victims having law degrees. Justice must be accessible to everyone. She received the John Lewis Award for Civil Rights Advocacy. At the ceremony, she honored Maria, Derek, Marcus, Lisa, ordinary citizens whose bravery made change possible. Metro City Police Department transformed under court order. Mandatory 40-hour bias training became standard. Body camera footage was automatically reviewed by civilian auditors. An independent oversight board was established with real community authority. The changes weren't perfect, but they were real. Maria Gonzalez, the gas station clerk, was honored by the city council for her testimony. She framed the certificate behind the quick-stop register where everyone could see. Derek Thompson started Document Justice, a nonprofit teaching young people to safely record police interactions and understand constitutional rights. His video had been viewed millions of times, becoming evidence in dozens of cases. Marcus Williams told his students, "Your voice matters. Document injustice. Testify when it's hard. Persist when systems say no. Change happens because ordinary people refuse to accept wrong as normal." Diane Morrison continued her work. Her chambers stayed busy. Some cases high-profile, most routine. She treated every case with the same rigor, the same commitment to truth. One afternoon, Emma visited after school. She noticed a framed photo on her mother's desk, the quick stop, taken the day after the verdict. "Why keep that, Mom?" Diane looked at the photo, then at Emma. "To remember that power without accountability is tyranny. Sometimes the person someone underestimates is the one who rewrites their story." Emma smiled. "You rewrote a lot of stories." "No, sweetheart. I just made sure the truth was heard." Outside the courthouse, protesters gathered in hope, not anger. Signs read, "Justice requires witnesses," and "Document. Testify, persist." The system hadn't been fixed overnight. Bias still existed. Officers still abused power. But cracks had formed in the wall of impunity. Light was getting through. Across the country, people paid attention, holding phones to record, filing complaints despite fear, demanding accountability despite impossibility. Because one woman refused to pick up her credit card from the floor, because she stood tall when someone tried to make her kneel, because she turned humiliation into justice. If this story moved you, like this video to amplify voices demanding accountability, share it with someone who needs to hear that justice is possible. Subscribe for more stories where the underestimated become undeniable. Comment below, have you experienced discrimination? Your story matters. Your voice builds the pattern that demands change. Remember, sometimes the person you underestimate is the one writing your reckoning. Thank you for reading. Now go be that witness.
The story you heard today wasn't cleaned up. It was told exactly as it happened. At Black Voices Uncut, we believe that's the only way truth can live. If you felt something, hit like, comment, and your reaction, and subscribe. Every week, we bring you voices that refuse to be silenced.